I'd like to call the January 11th, 2016 Spotsylvania County School Board meeting to order. We have all of our members present, and so we have a quorum. Mr. Braswell, would you please lead us in the pledge? Thank you, Mr. Braswell. May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda, adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Motion by Dr. Meyer, a second by Mrs. Blaylock. All those in favor of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? 7-0. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 2.01, where we're doing the reorganization of the school board. The first part of this evening's meeting is focused on the reorganization of the school board. Pursuant to the Virginia Code 22.172, the board is required to establish a meeting schedule for the coming year, and Section 22.176 mandates that the board reorganize annually with the election of officers at this first meeting in January. This reorganization includes the selection of the chair, vice chair, approval of the clerk, deputy clerk, and superintendent's designee to attend meetings in the absence of the superintendent, approval of the meeting schedule for this calendar year, and confirmation of the school board code of ethics. As the current chair, I will preside at the selection of the chair and then transfer the gavel to the newly elected chair. The chair has multiple responsibilities, for which the vice chair will fill in as needed. Some of these responsibilities are the following: preside at the regular meetings, special called meetings, workshops, joint meetings with the Board of Supervisors, and school board closed session meetings. Facilitate and moderates discussion among board members, seeking consensus as appropriate using Robert's Rules of Order. Prepares board committee assignments. Communicates regularly with other board members, keeping them informed of school matters. Maintains ongoing contact with the superintendent on relevant school matters. Prepares board's agenda with the superintendent. Takes the lead on contract negotiation, evaluation, and goal setting with the superintendent. Takes the lead on developing priorities for the school board's annual goal setting and board professional development. Prepares and delivers in conjunction with the vice chair and superintendent and approves school board budget presentation to the Board of Supervisors. Signs contracts, official minutes, and resolutions approved by the board. Approves board members' local travel reimbursements online, and signs board member expense reimbursement vouchers. These activities and duties require considerable time and dedication by the chair and vice chair. This list is not all-inclusive, but does provide some idea of what is entailed with the duties and responsibilities of the chair and ultimately the vice chair if needed. These leadership positions are critical to the effectiveness of the board. And now we will proceed with the selection process. Board, I will begin with opening the floor for nominations for chair of the Spotsylvania County School Board for the 2016 calendar year. Do I have a nomination?
Madam Chair, I have a nomination.
And who is that nomination, Mrs. Blaylock?
I would like to first thank you for your service and leading us this past year and doing a fabulous job. Thank you, and I'll say more about that in my comments later. And I also want to nominate someone who has been a leader in the community, a leader on this board, and I am very, very, very settled in the fact that he would be able to lead us for this next year. With that being said, I nominate my colleague and my friend, Mr. Baron Braswell, as chairman.
Thank you. So we have a nomination for Mr. Baron Braswell. Do we have any other nominations?
Madam Chair, I'd like to motion that, or move that the nominations be closed.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Meyer that the nominations be closed. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Gramp. Call for the vote for, this is just to close the nominations for the chairman. May all in favor please say aye? Aye. All those opposed? 7-0. Thank you. I would like to have a motion to approve Mr. Braswell as the chairman for the Spotsylvania County School Board 2016 year.
I would like to move that we elect Mr. Baron Braswell as chairman for the school board for the upcoming year.
I have
And I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
a motion by Mrs. Blaylock, a second by Dr. Meyer, and I'm going to ask for a roll call vote, starting with Ms. Grant, please.
Gramp, aye.
Blaine, aye.
Braswell, aye.
Shelley, aye.
Blaylock, aye.
Meyer, aye.
Twig, aye.
Mr. Braswell, 7-0. You are our new board chair.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, I congratulate Mr. Braswell and pass this gavel as a symbol of the duties and responsibility that accompany this position. I and my fellow board members pledge our support to you as chair as we move forward. We look forward to working with you in anticipation of the leadership that you will provide this board.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we continue on, I just want to make a few comments. I, first of all, want to thank Ms. Shelley for being an excellent chairwoman for this board over the last year. And I want to thank her for her dedication and service to this board, and also the dedication and service that she provided to our very large division. And in keeping with that, I am honored and humbled by this opportunity to be chair. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. I respect each and every person that's assembled on this board, and I look forward to working in the same fashion that we have in the past with our staff, so that we can do our very best to make sure that our children are college and career ready. With that being said, I thank you, and I thank this board. Continuing on with the reorganization of our board, we are opening up nominations now for vice chair. Do we have any nominations on the floor for vice chair?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Ms. Erin Gramp as the vice chair for the 2016 calendar year. She has exemplified herself through these last several years, having served with us now already 2 years. This is her 3rd year. But she dove right into the financial matters of the school division, has been very influential in developing the budget and work with the audit review committee. And I think she will be a tremendous asset to Mr. Braswell and make a very good team. So I'm nominating Ms. Erin Gramp as the vice chair for 2016.
Dr. Meyer, thank you. We have Erin Gramp as a nomination for vice chair. Do we have any other nominations? Are there any others?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we close the nominations.
There is a motion on the floor to close nominations for vice chair. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded by Dr. Meyer, properly moved by Ms. Blaylock. We are voting now to close nominations for vice chair by voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Vote carries 7-0 to close the nomination for vice chair. We will now, we need a nomination on the floor to, nominate, a motion on the floor to nominate Erin Gramp as vice chair.
Just for correction, we've done the nomination. Let's vote.
Okay.
Next step will be the vote to approve her nomination.
Okay. By roll call vote, we'll, motion? I think we're,
I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve Ms. Gramp as our vice chair.
we have a motion to approve Ms. Gramp as vice chair. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Ms. Blaylock has seconded the motion. We're going to go by roll call vote, starting with Mr. Twig.
Aye.
Twig, aye.
Meyer, aye.
Twig, aye.
Blaylock, aye.
Shelley, aye.
Braswell, aye.
Blaine, aye.
Gramp, aye.
Congratulations. Continuing on, we have a motion to, can we have a motion to approve Dr. Dennis Martin as clerk of the board?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Dr. Martin as our clerk of the board.
We have a motion by Ms. Shelley. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Dr. Meyer. Properly moved and seconded to have Dr. Martin as the clerk of the board. Roll call vote. We have Ms. Gramp start us with the vote, please.
Gramp, aye.
Blaine, aye.
Well, aye.
Shelley, aye.
Blaylock, aye.
Meyer, aye.
Twig, aye.
The vote carries 7-0. Congratulations, Dr. Martin. Continuing on with Deputy Clerk of the Board, we need a motion to approve Ms. Bowler as Deputy Clerk of the Board.
I would like to make a motion to approve Mrs. Bowler as the deputy clerk of the board.
I will second that.
Properly moved by Ms. Shelley, seconded by Mr. Blaine. And from my understanding, we can do this by voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Vote carries 7-0. Superintendent's designee to attend meetings in the absence of the superintendent, Ms. Carol Flanard. Can we have a motion on the floor to designate Ms. Flanard as a designee to attend meetings in the absence of the superintendent?
I move that we select Ms. Carol Flanard to attend meetings in the absence of our superintendent.
Ms. Blaylock has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Shelley has seconded. Properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposes? Motion carries 7-0. Board calendar for 2016. We make a motion to approve the board calendar for the year 2016. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move that we approve the board calendar for 2016.
I'll second that.
Ms. Gramp has moved to approve the board calendar for 2016, seconded by Mr. Blaine.
I have some discussion. I have something I just had something I wanted to say about the calendar. Just a couple of comments. I wanted to make sure that the public knows take note that we meet usually the second and fourth Mondays of the month, but in March, there would be a meeting on March 29th, but we will not be having a meeting on June 29th. It is during spring break, and we will be having multiple meetings that month as well due to the budget process. So we will not have a regular meeting on March 29th. It is not on our calendar, so I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that.
The 29th.
The 28th, okay.
28th?
Okay, 28th. I can't see, I didn't put on my glasses.
On the 28th.
And, yes. And then also, and that's in March, and then also, I just like the board to take notice that the tentative date right now for the Board of Supervisors budget public hearing is also scheduled during spring break, and that is March 31st. So just so the public is aware of that, and our board is aware that the public hearing is tentatively set. I don't think it is, it's not actually on their calendar yet, but it's on ours for March 31st. So I just wanted to make sure that we were all aware.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Any other discussions? We'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Vote carries 7-0. Motion to reaffirm the Code of Ethics as specified in the board policy. Can we have a motion on the floor to reaffirm the Code of Ethics? Motion by Mr. Blaine to reaffirm the Code of Ethics. Seconded by Ms. Shelley. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right. Let me backtrack on that. That has to be a roll call vote. So we have a motion on the floor to reaffirm the Code of Ethics. It was properly seconded. Roll call vote starting with Ms. Gramp.
Gramp, aye.
Blaine, aye.
As well, aye.
Shelley, aye.
Blaylock, aye.
Meyer, aye.
Twig, aye.
Okay, motion carries 7-0. And now we're at the point of the reorganization where we can actually change our seats. And so I will switch seats with Ms. Shelley, our vice chair, by her choice, would love to sit in her same spot. And so we're going to honor that. And starting from then, Mr. Blaine will have seniority, Ms. Blaylock has seniority and where she seats, and then Mr. Blaine, Dr. Meyer, and Ms. Shelley, and then Mr. Twig. Okay.
Mr. Blaine gets to go next, I guess, or Ms. Blaylock.
Okay, Ms. Blaylock would like to stay where she's at, and Mr. Blaine would like to stay where he's at. Yeah, she's staying where she's at. Everybody's happy. Okay, and so Ms. Shelley will stay.
I'm going to scooch over there.
Okay, Ms.
Is this Mr. Twig's computer?
And please bear with us as we're trying to get ourselves organized here. Let's see. There it is. Let's see it over here. Thank you. Thank you for bearing with us as we completed our reorganization. And now we can get to some good entertainment. So we'd like to continue on with 3.01, the Riverbend Rhapsody. Ms. Flinard.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Baker and Dr. Martin. This evening, Riverbend Rhapsody is comprised of the most advanced and dedicated orchestra students. Members of this group also serve as musical ambassadors to the Riverbend High School Orchestra program. The purpose of this ensemble is to give students another opportunity to perform outside the classroom and to provide a community service through music. Rhapsody has performed at other schools, other school board meetings, award ceremonies, retirement centers, and other areas within our community. This group is under the direction of John Ryan Zanzibal.
piece is titled Salute to Freedom.
Let's give the Riverbend Rhapsody another round of applause. Excellent job. Before we continue, I'd like to ask any of the board members, do you have any comments that you'd like to make before they depart?
Just a fabulous job. That was a treat. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms.
Go
Blaine.
Bears.
Go Bears from Ms. Shelley. Anyone else? Mr. Blaine?
double ditto on that one.
This just demonstrates, I think, to all of us, the fine quality of our fine arts program, and they epitomize, I think, the accomplishments of that division.
Thank you, Mr. Blaine. Anyone else?
Job well done.
Thank you, Mr. Twigg. That being said, I'd like to take a moment to just backtrack on 2.03. We will reach out to all of the board members and find out their desires for committee assignments, and then myself and Ms. Gramp will get together and take a look at the list and then assist in putting together our committees for the next calendar year, and then coordinate that with the individual board members. So I just wanted to cover that. That won't be done this evening. Going on to, before I go to 4.01, I want to take the opportunity to recognize our county administrator that's in the audience, Mr. Mark Taylor, and also our Board of Supervisor from the Chancellor District, I believe, Salem District, I'm sorry, from the Salem District, Mr. Paul Trampy. Thank you for coming. Mr. Trampy has always been a fixture here at the school board meetings. We appreciate the fact that he comes and sees what we're really all about, and we thank you for that sincerely, sir. Going on to 4.01, the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. And I guess, I don't know who's supposed to be leading that for us. Is that Ms. Gaines, or is that you? Dr. Martin.
I'm going to have Dr. Martin, and then you and I will go down.
Okay, we'll go on up.
You're on, Ms. Graham.
For the 8th consecutive year, the Government Finance Officers Association has awarded the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award to Spotsylvania County Public Schools for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015. This award represents the validation of the school division's efforts to implement best practices in school budgeting. The best practices include a budget development process that reflects the fact that student achievement goals are the guiding force for budget decisions. The division congratulates the following individuals for their dedication in the preparation of the award-winning Spotsylvania County Public Schools FY 2016 budget book. Please come forward to be recognized as we announce your name. LaShawn Gaines, Chief Financial Officer. Marcia Stevens, Director of Budget and Payroll. Barbie Stombeck, Director of Finance. Melissa Webster, Administrative Assistant. Doreen Flint, Accounting Technician. Bridget Smith-Hurd, Senior Financial Analyst. And Leah Underwood, Program Analyst. I was going to say they're great. And we'll continue with 4.02, the Fine Arts Recognitions. Ms. Carol Thenard.
Thank you again. This month, we are displaying artwork in the school board office from 5 of our schools. These schools are Berkeley Elementary and Chancellor Elementary, art teacher Caitlin LaFaro, Battlefield Middle School, art teacher Joshua Blum, Chancellor Middle School, art teacher Shannon McKay, Post Oak Middle School, art teacher Casey Deal, and Spotsylvania Middle School, art teacher Ramona Morris. We celebrated these student artists previously with certificates of appreciation at a reception held in their honor prior to this meeting.
And we'll continue with 4.03, Superintendent's Award.
Thank you. The January Superintendent Award for Outstanding Visual Art goes to Ashley Gordon. Miss Gordon is a third grader at Harrison Road Elementary School. Her artwork will hang in Dr. Baker's office this month. We would like Miss Gordon and her art teacher, Miss Erin Watson, to come forward to be recognized for their outstanding accomplishment.
We want to commend all those that received awards for their hard work, not only to the division, but to especially the young lady for the great visual art work that she did. Is just absolutely excellent, and that's indicative of the students that we have here in our division. So we're very proud of them, and we're proud of our employees for everything that they do for this division and the children that we educate. So moving on to 5.01, public comments. Dr. Martin, if you would, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The public comment segment of our board meetings is a time to receive recommendations, suggestions, concerns, and comments from the general public. Each speaker is allotted 5 minutes, and we ask that they clearly state the name, address, and/or voting district for the board. A speaker may request additional time from the board should one's 5-minute allotment expire. We ask that you keep your comments focused on the issues and that all speakers maintain a level of decorum and mutual respect for one another. Our first speaker is Mr. Mark Taylor.
What a great blessing to be here, and particularly to learn that your rule is 5 minutes, not 3. Good golly. Thank you. And good evening. I'm Spotsylvania County Administrator Mark Taylor, and I live at Spotsylvania Courthouse, and I'm here to greet you in this new year and to invite you cordially and respectfully to join our Board of Supervisors and our general government organization on a path of cooperation. And in connection with that, to ask you to take one potentially very valuable action. I learned after the fact that at your meeting in December, you authorized your staff to proceed to a contract with Tyler Technologies for a new computer system to support your core business functions in HR and finance. I came to ask you this evening, respectfully, to direct your staff to pause in this process briefly and to consider joining our general government contract for a similar system that is being provided by SunGuard, and also to consider allowing us to join on your Tyler system as an alternative. I realize that this request is unprecedented, but I've come to make it to you directly because it could lead to upfront savings of as much as $750,000, if not closer to $1 million. That's capital money that could be spent on something else, or perhaps wouldn't need to be borrowed at all. As I ask you this, I want you to know that the school division and the general government are on the same schedule for the implementation of new computer systems. We are both, Dr. Baker and I, determined and targeted to have new systems implemented by July 1st, 2017. I believe that working together is our best opportunity to achieve this shared goal. I also want you to know that the system that the general government is implementing has been used jointly by the Chesterfield County General Government and their school division for 3 or 4 years for their HR and finance functions. And I want you to know that Hanover County is currently in the process of implementing the same system to be shared by their HR and finance functions. So there are templates for doing what I'm asking you to do. Chesterfield and Hanover counties are counties that I've looked to as best practice benchmarks for the 26 years that I've been in local government. I believe that we can learn from them and that they will help us in this undertaking if we need them. And the other alternative, of course, would be for our organization to come on to the system that Dr. Baker and his staff has selected. And I would genuinely like to explore that. You need to understand that the general government is already $500,000 spent in the process of implementing our system, but I commit to you that I want to give a fair evaluation to either alternative because I believe that working together is the very, very best that we can do for our community. Unity is a decision. It doesn't just happen. It's a decision of the heart and of the mind, and it requires action. And I want you to know personally, as some of you may not know, I previously served in Spotsylvania between 1996 and 2006. I've had a home in this community since 1997. I commuted to a year before I came here, and I've kept that home in Spotsylvania since 1997, even though I've been away working on the Eastern Shore for 8 years in between time. I love Spotsylvania. I know that Dr. Baker does also. When I came back to Spotsylvania in 2015, he was the first person I wanted to meet in this community, and I came to his office without an appointment, and he very graciously gave me about an hour of his time, and we've been working very hard together to build a dialogue and a foundation for working together. It is challenging, I understand, especially in two large and busy organizations, to make the decision for unity, to make the decision for cooperation, to work together. I know that Dr. Baker wants the very, very best for our school system, for our community. I want you all to have the faith in me that I also want the very, very best for our community. Let us please pause and take a fair opportunity together to consider the joint undertaking with a computer system for the good of our community and for the good of our future. Thank you very much for this time.
Dr. Martin, are there any other speakers signed up?
Mr. Chairman, that's all the speakers that signed up.
Since there's no other scheduled speakers, we'd like to extend the opportunity to anyone that's in the audience. If you would like to come up and speak, please raise your hand or come to the lectern so that we can give you the opportunity to make your comments known. Is there anyone interested in coming forward to speak? If not, we'll close public comment section 5.01 and start with 5.02. And I'd like to start with Ms. Gramp.
I just want to say that I am looking forward to working this year with Mr. Braswell as my chair and vice chair of the board, and we are very eager to get started on the budget process, and that is all I have this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Blaine?
I'd like first to thank Mrs. Shelley for the hard work she did and the fine leadership that she demonstrated this last year, and I look forward to continually working with you. And for the listening audience especially, I'd like to thank you for re-electing me for another 4-year term. This is the 11th race I've been in, probably the most difficult I've had. I knocked on about 1,950 doors and talked to over, I think, 16,000 people between the end of July and November 3rd, and I was very happy when 7 p.m. arrived on the 3rd of November. It's a real privilege to be re-elected to work with our boys and girls. The most important single factor in our society and in our community probably are our children. And what we do for them to see that they get the fundamental education that they absolutely need falls on our shoulders. We have about 24,000 boys and girls, and the parents of those children every day send them on our buses, traveling maybe 29,000 miles a day, to be with our staff, and the trust in our staff to see that they get the quality education that we intend to give them. And I'd like to thank everyone for the opportunity to let me continue serving our children and doing what is best for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blaine. Before I turn the mic over to Mr. Twigg, I just want to congratulate him on his election. We welcome him to the board. He's already shown great enthusiasm to be here with us and to work with us, roll up his sleeves with us. I've had some great conversations with him, and I know I'm going to look forward to and enjoy working with him over the next several years. So with that being said, congratulations, Mr. Twigg. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody in Livingston. To the Livingston voters and taxpayers, Livingston students, staff, and teachers, and the entire Spotsylvania School Division, and everybody here this evening, I am here to serve you. I am humbled by this opportunity to provide servant leadership toward our school division's vision. Our school division's vision is Spotsylvania County Public Schools is a leading school division that inspires and empowers our students to become creative thinkers, problem solvers, and effective communicators by engaging and ensuring a supportive learning environment, innovative opportunities, and lasting partnerships. I bring the perspective of an engineer with an MBA to this school board, and the staff's tired of hearing that, but so I apologize. This will be the last time, which I expect will add to an already productive mix to this talented school board. I've been integrating with our county schools and leadership team for the past 2 months. I am already encouraged by Dr. Baker's leadership and business mindset and the continuous improvement process that he has brought to this operation. Further, his excellent staff, the people he's placed around them. I'm very encouraged by that. To all of Livingston, I have heard your concerns and needs, and I will be a lot more than a vote toward addressing our issues. Lastly, please contact me with questions or concerns, and again, I thank you for this opportunity, and humbly, with excellence, look forward to serving you.
Thank you, Mr. Twigg. Ms. Blaylock.
Thank you, Mr. Braswell. And first of all, I also want to welcome Mr. Twigg. I've gotten to know him over the past few months, and it's been a pleasure to work with you, and I look forward to working with you for the next few years. Thank you for serving. Thank you, Ms. Shelley, for serving as our chairwoman for the last year. You did a fabulous job, and clearly by your voters, they think you're doing a fabulous job too, as you were reelected, and today you officially start your second term. Mr. Blaine, the same goes for you. You're officially starting your second term, so congratulations to you on your reelection as well. And once again, congratulations to Mr. Braswell and Ms. Gramp, who are now the leaders of the board. And I look forward to serving under you and hoping to be an asset to your efforts. I want to congratulate the Spelling Bee winners this Saturday. A lot of us were there, and it was just a wonderful event and a fabulous job done by all. And I have to tell you, when you attend our Spelling Bee, you need to check yourself, because these kids are a lot smarter than we are. There were some words that threw me that did not rattle them. So I was very, very proud of all of the kids from the elementary and the middle school who participated, and of course, ultimately our winners from Battlefield and Post Oak Middle. And then the last thing I wanted to address as we start the new year is I've been on the board a long time now, and I've actually never had a county administrator address us ever since I've been on the board. So I want to appreciate having you here, Mr. Taylor. I would like to say that I think there's a little more to the story, and the word unity is a word we've been trying to get across for years. So I would say that that's going to cross both ways, both sides of the aisle. And I've spent many, many years trying to form a good relationship with the Board of Supervisors and to move forward, and you're right, together we work better. I am under the impression that the county put together a RFP and approved a system maybe a year or so ago before us, and I don't believe anybody contacted us at that time. So to have you come here and say that we should have contacted you, first I've heard of that. I would be glad to sit down. I was on a committee where we met and talked about procurement and where we could share any kind of expenses that might save some money. I do know that our finance team, led by Ms. LaShawn Gaines, is one of the finest teams I have ever worked with, and I have my full support behind her and her team, and the full support behind the contract that we approved at the last meeting. Having said that, I yield the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Blaylock. Dr. Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Braswell, newly elected chair. Congratulations, Ms. Gramp. Likewise, congratulations. And look forward to working with you in any capacity whatsoever you need that I can help you. I want to thank Ms. Shelley for her leadership for this past year. Has been a tremendous chair. Also, congratulations go out to the Riverbend Bears and the Rhapsody. That was quite a performance, and our students on their artwork. Also, truly want to welcome Mr. Twigg. He and I sort of was a tag team as we were going through orientation. He and I were going around to the different tables. And he does bring a new perspective, and look forward to working with you with your perspective as we look at our budget. We'll have a lot of questions, and I'm sure there will be in-depth work in that regard. Do also want to recognize two former colleagues of mine. We received news in this last week who passed away. Tom Burleson was a longtime principal at Cortland Elementary, and I think he was really known for his cool, common sense, practical approach. When Cortland was being built, it was a challenge, to say the least. But he was a principal who accepted, we have to relocate, we have to do this, we have to do that. He was always very calm, cool, collected. I never met a principal who was calmer than he was, and he was quite an educator. He really brought a lot of talent to the principalship role. In the same manner, it's quite coincidental that Bruce Midkiff, he was a resident of Fredericksburg and worked here in this division as Director of Secondary Ed. I think he was first known for his talent with John J. Wright and working to get that school underway during integration. And then if anybody was following on Facebook saw a comment by Pam Wickwert, it's no coincidence Walt McWirt was one of the principals there as well. So those two knew each other for a long, long time. And I was always inspired by Bruce's ability to focus on education and what was best for students. So those two educators will truly be missed. Spotsylvania has a lot to be thankful for their contributions to the educational system as we have evolved. Thank you.
Dr. Meyer, thank you for your comments. Ms. Shelley, please.
Thank you. Once again, congratulations on your chairmanship, Mr. Braswell, and Vice Chair, Ms. Gramp. And again, welcome to the board, Mr. Twigg, and a re-election for Mr. Blaine and Dr. Meyer as well. So this is great. Happy New Year, everybody. It's 2016. So welcome to a new year. I do want to say thank you as well to my board for a tremendous year last year. It went smoothly because the board is so awesome, and they were very supportive, and they were very easy to work with. So I had an easy go of it. So thank you to the board. I have no further comments this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. And I'm going to yield back to Mr. Twigg so he can have an opportunity to finish some comments he wasn't sure that he was able to make.
Yes, regarding Mr. Taylor's comments, and thank you for enlightening us on those issues. Request status, Dr. Baker, on that December vote results, RFP status. Could you brief us, please?
Well, Well, we'll have that discussion on old or new business, I would suppose it would be.
Okay.
Yeah, so that, yeah.
All right, well, that's the predicate for my comments
Oh, okay.
regarding that issue.
Yeah, we have to talk about that at another portion, okay?
No problem.
All right. Thank you. I'd like to thank all the board members for their comments. I once again want to say I want to thank them for their support in me, and also I want to thank Ms. Gramp for her support, and we look forward to serving this board and our students in the up and coming year. We already have ahead of us a daunting challenge next year in our budget. We're ready to roll up our sleeves and present the best budget that we possibly can that ensures that our students are college and career ready. That is our strategic goal, and we do everything in accordance with that strategic goal. And I want to thank Dr. Baker and his leadership, because every decision that we make is centered and focused on our strategic plan. We don't make decisions in a vacuum. In addition to that, I was actually honored to hear Mr. Taylor come forward and bring up some issues about working together. And it is correct, we do need to work together. However, we work together strategically in solving problems. There's things that we don't have the capacity to do, and only you have the capacity to do, and we look forward to your leadership and working together so we can help our citizens not only educate their children in the best way possible, but keep the cost as low as possible for our taxpayers. We understand that. But we also understand that part of unity is in the way we communicate with one another. There's always a time and a place for everything. At least that's what my mama told me. And so with that being said, I know that Dr. Baker is a man that always has his door open, willing to receive a phone call, willing to talk about issues and iron out issues in a way where you can have true dialogue so that issues can be solved in a way that's prudent for both organizations, that fosters a willingness to work together. So that being said, I look forward in the up and coming year working with the Board of Supervisors, their leadership, working with you, sir, and doing it in a way that shows mutual respect for both boards. With that being said, I want to turn it over to Dr. Baker and his comments.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'll be brief. I'd also like to say Happy New Year and welcome to all of our board members, those returning and those that are new. And Mr. Twigg, welcome to the school board. Mr. Twigg has brought, I think, great energy, great curiosity about our operation. And I mean sincerely that he and I have immediately connected on we're Deming fans and total quality management and continuous improvement. And I think it actually has been somewhat liberating and exciting for our staff to be able to not show off, but to be able to reinforce the intentionality and deliberate nature of what we're trying to do as a school division to best support our students. So thank you for being a part of that. And I thank all of the school board members for your continued engagement, and not just being here on the dais and conducting a public meeting, but the many ways in which you engage that folks would not know about because you would not let them know. The many meetings that you attend, the many events that you are engaged in and come to support our students in presence, and you do that in such a giving and genuine way. You truly help to lead the way in engaging our community. I would like to just say one brief comment. Mr. Taylor and I have had the pleasure of conversing a number of times since he transitioned in as the new county administrator, and I find it a non-negotiable. The superintendent and the county administrator must forge a relationship that enables us to best serve our respective organizations, and he has been very complimentary of many things that we are doing as a school division, and in many ways has asked to know more so that he and the county can benefit from the things that we do. And while it's probably not appropriate to go into too many details. I will update regarding the, currently we are still working with the county on making sure that as we move forward, whether it's with our current systems, that we will make sure that they are working as efficiently and effectively together and try to work together to make sure that there is enough cooperation that we can garner savings. And we hope that we're able to do that in our working relationship, not just in one season of time, but over the course of time. The board did approve the new information system for finance and HR, Mr. Twigg, back at the December meeting. The bid was awarded, and we are still in contract negotiation form at present. And we will be continuing to meet with the county. I believe we have a meeting tomorrow morning to continue to work on the ways that our systems can interface and we can work together. I will conclude with, I know that we have folks out there that came tonight. I want to thank all of our teachers, our administrators, our full staff. In a little less than a week, a little more than a week, I will present a proposed budget along with the finance staff to the school board. It's wrong to say I look forward to that. You know, there may be, it used to be, I don't know if superintendents have ever looked forward to bringing a budget, because usually there's something in there that's just not that good, or there's challenges in there that aren't fun to bring forward. But what does inspire me are our students. Thanks.
Dr. Baker, thank you for your comments. And we're going to move on with 6.01, board committee reports. Members, do we have any reports? Ms. Graham.
The Audit and Finance Committee met today, and we did our first budget talks about the expected expenditures and the points that we want to make sure are stressed in our upcoming budget. So we are definitely hard at work with that. At the beginning of the meeting, we did discuss the new Tyler system. And just want to point out that I, as well as Amanda and the other board members, have been involved in this process for months now, and we have been through the RFP process and took a lot of time to choose which system worked best for us. And the Tyler system that we voted on last month, it was definitely a best fit for our system and our needs. The other system that the county has selected that was mentioned earlier was the cost is budget-based, so the potential savings that Mr. Taylor thinks are there, I'm not sure are, once you put in our budget and what we need it to do. It also did not have the same training for our users, so we definitely went with this system because it was more efficient for us as a school system. But I definitely look forward to maybe turning your county side onto the Tyler system because it is a better system for us. So that's what the Finance Committee recommends.
Thank you, Ms. Gramp. Any other committee reports? Any other committee reports? Seeing none, moving on to 6.02, Capital Improvement Plan. Mr. Upperco.
Thank you, Chairman Braswell, and congratulations. Members of the board, Mr. Twigg, welcome aboard. Dr. Baker, Dr. Martin. Each year, the capital improvement plan is prepared by staff and submitted to the school board for review and approval. Following the school board's approval, it is forwarded to the county administrator for inclusion in the county's capital improvement plan. The Spotsylvania County Board of Supervisors finalizes funding appropriation in the spring of each calendar year. The proposed CIP 2017-2021 focuses on the need for continued improvements in technology, transportation, and maintenance. The CIP 2017-2021 includes actual student enrollment as well as enrollment trends formulated as a result of the Planning the Plan study. Staff will be prepared to address questions pertaining to the CIP 2017-2021 at the school board work sessions. There will be two, one on January the 25th and one on February the 1st. We're also prepared tonight, if you have initial questions, to answer those as well. The final version of CIP 2017-2021 will be included in the school board's approved budget That is to be presented at the February 8th school board meeting. So I would like to present a very short review of the highlights in the proposed 2017-2021 CIP at this time. You have to bear with me. My wife tells me that as a man, we struggle to do more than one thing at a time. So there are times I start talking faster than I click, or sometimes I get trigger happy and I find myself a little bit behind what the slides say. So I'll do my best, and there are plenty of females on the board that can help me, just in case.
It sounds rather sexist to me.
I hope that didn't come out in any offensive way.
Mr. Upperco, it's too late, but
Yeah.
it's too late. But
I'll
I
stick
think
both
everyone
feet in my mouth.
understands.
Should we make a
Let me
motion?
do, in all seriousness, let me say thanks for this opportunity to highlight the proposed capital improvement plan 2017-2021. Very briefly, I want to start by reviewing the points of emphasis for tonight. As you can see, we'll start with the CIP introduction. We'll move to the project summary totals by year. We'll get specific and talk about some of the project summaries for transportation, maintenance, and technology. We'll briefly look at student enrollment trends per the Planning the Plan study. We'll talk about related debt service costs associated with the CIP, and then finally we'll conclude with the timetable, some of which I've already given you, but I know it bears repeating. Before I get started any further, I would like to introduce real quickly, and they're going to be embarrassed because I didn't know I was going to do this, a number of people who helped really make this document what it is. First, Mr. Sean Hockaday, our Director of Maintenance. Kenny Forrest, our Director of Transportation. Craig Greenlaw, Director of Fleet Services. Pete Zakari, Assistant Director of Instructional Technology. And Dr. Jan Strike, our Director of Growth and Innovation. If you guys would stand, if you're not already, I'm going to embarrass you in front of everybody. Thank you very much. It takes a team effort. We have quite a good team. I'd also like to thank Ms. LaShawn Gaines, the award-winning Ms. LaShawn Gaines, excuse me, for all her assistance. Now let's look and see what a capital improvement plan is. And I know that most of you already know this, but the capital improvement plan is a capital budget and planning document that's prepared annually for you, the Spotsylvania County School Board. It covers a 5-year period, which of course the upcoming year is 2017 plus 4 years thereafter, and they move out 1 year. They move out 1 year each year. The CIP provides a forecast by which capital maintenance, capital technology, and capital transportation projects required to support the school division are planned, financed, and constructed. I'd like to show you this slide shows the cost of the proposed projects by year and by category for the 5-year CIP time frame. As you can see, starting in 2017, in transportation, $4.3 million, maintenance, $13.5, technology, $9.8, for a total for that year of 2017 of $27.6 million. The next year, fiscal year 2018, again, you see $4.1 million for transportation projects, $16.2 million for maintenance projects, $4.5 million for technology, for a total of $24.8 for fiscal year 2018. 2019, $4.2 million for transportation, $18.8 million for maintenance, and $3.6 million in the area of technology projects. 2020, $3.7 for transportation, $6.5 maintenance, and $2.5 for technology projects. And finally, in 2021, $3.6 million in the area of transportation, $4.9 for maintenance projects, and $2.8 for technology, for a total in 2021 of $11.3. Bottom line, over a 5-year period, we're talking about just under $20 million in transportation projects. We're talking $59.9 million in maintenance, and we're talking $23.2 million in the area of technology. The total altogether would be approximately $103.1 million. So we're talking major expenditures, so we're going to spend the money as wisely as possible. Now let me take you to transportation very quickly and give you some of the highlights that we find in transportation. First, over the 5-year period, remember this is over the 5-year period, we have 28 replacement buses for special needs, 3 Type A replacement buses, and you might say, well, what in the world is a Type A bus? That is a special needs bus that is lighter than our normal special needs buses. They do get better gas mileage. They don't stand up as long for as many years typically. They're not as rugged. But we do use a few of these because we have some students who are in day placements in faraway places like Richmond and Manassas on a daily basis, and it saves us in fuel costs to have these on hand. You'll see 118 77-passenger bus replacements, 6 Head Start buses. What is a Head Start bus? I didn't know till I took this job. A Head Start bus is where we have integrated child booster seats that can recess into the seat back when they're not being used for Head Start children. It's sort of more bang for the buck. It also saves a lot of time and prevents us from having additional facilities to store the booster seats when they're not in use. We also have 8 engine replacements and the replacements of bus cameras. I realize you haven't had much time to look at the CIP, but if you'll look at pages 16 through 18 in the CIP booklet, it spells it out in a little bit more detail. Now let's take a look at maintenance. Maintenance highlights include things that aren't sexy necessarily, but are definitely needed, and sometimes the general public might not know that they're even necessary, but we know that they are. For example, roof replacements and repairs, HVAC upgrades, which is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, plumbing system upgrades, carpet and flooring improvements, boiler repairs, camera upgrades, fire alarm upgrades, and architectural access control, which are all efforts that are coordinated in the Comprehensive School Safety Security Initiative. What is that? That's an effort to work across departments and to include the Sheriff's Department as well as emergency management in determining a long-range, systematic, comprehensive safety and security plan for our schools. In addition, highlighted projects include the renovation and possible expansion of Cortland High School, which is our oldest high school. We will be examining repurposing existing classroom space per the Planning the Plan capacity study, which is nearing completion, and you will receive an update on that when we get the final results. Lighting upgrades to LED, parking lot repairs, and you'll see on a school year by year, school by school chart on pages 23 through 31 how we have scheduled the projects in the maintenance CIP. So I would urge you to take a look at that. It takes some time, but it's well worth it. Next, we'll move to technology. And I'm doing very well with technology tonight so far. Thank you. This is about as far as I can go. The highlighted projects in technology include replacing wireless infrastructure at the elementary school, upgrading that wireless infrastructure in high school and middle schools, replacing computer devices such as laptops and desktops, other replacements that include switches, projectors, interactive projectors, servers, access points, and whatnot to sustain LAN and WLAN infrastructure. Finance and HR information system replacement, which we've heard about a little bit tonight, and response to intervention reading solutions and response to intervention instructional solutions. In addition, the projects include multimedia instructional solution, STEAM instructional solution, and safety and security upgrades that would be also a part of the comprehensive initiative that I just spoke about just a minute ago. You can see details of these projects on pages 19 through 22 in the CIP booklet. Now let's talk about debt service. If the division borrows $27.6 million in the spring of 2016 for the upcoming FY17 projects, the debt service costs from FY16 to FY17 will increase by about $2.7 million, or about 11.7%. And you can see on the table there on the screen that the final column, the third column there, shows the increase or decrease from the preceding year's overall debt service. So in 2017, as I said, we're talking about an addition of about $2.7 million. 2018, $157,000. 2019, almost $1.4 million. In 2020, we actually pay less than the preceding years because we're starting to retire the debt, $712,891 less. And finally, in 2021, $302,460. So I wanted to be transparent and let you know what the cost of debt service would be. We are fortunate because the county has been able to refinance some of the preceding bond at a lower interest rate, so that helps us potentially, hopefully, a little bit. Now, student enrollment, and I realize that at the last meeting, planning the plan was discussed with you, and one of the components that was discussed was student enrollment trends. So this chart shows the increase and decrease by school year from the preceding school year. It's a little bit confusing at first, but if you will go to 2014, 2015, and you'll see last year we had 23,817 students enrolled on October 1. This year we had 23,678 students enrolled on October 1 for a decline or a reduction of 139 students. Next year, Mosley has projected an additional 23 or so students, a decline of 23 or so students. You'll see that in 2017, 2018, there should be 57 additional students. And then the following year, 2018, 2019, 24 additional students. Then we take a big jump in 2019, 2020, 246 more students. And then in 2020, 2021, an additional 203. So you can see the totals at the lower end of each bar and the impact that that we're discussing here. I wanted you to have that again because I think it's important. I would also recommend that when you look through the CIP booklet, I find that there's a helpful graph on page number 36, which shows the historical enrollment, and it also shows the next 5 years of projected enrollment as well. And I find that to be a pretty quick, handy guide for me when I'm making presentations. I hope you'll find it to be useful as well. Also, I just draw your attention to the fact that the regional elementary enrollments versus capacity start on page number 37. Middle school enrollments to capacity start on page 49, and high school enrollments on page 51. What's next? Well, we mentioned this already, but on January 25th at 4:30, we will hold a work session here. Again, on February 1st, that work session will be held starting at 5:30, and then at the February 8th school board meeting, you will be approving the CIP as part of the overall budget. Now, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those or call somebody up who might know the answer better than I.
Thank you for that enlightening briefing there, Dr. Upperco.
You're welcome. I like that, doctor.
You like that? Let you fit in. We're going to ask our board members if they have any questions they'd like to ask Mr. Upperco. Aaron, please. Go ahead.
I guess this is more of a statement. Before we vote on the CIP, will we have the second update to our enrollment this year?
Are you talking about
The one that our ADM is based on?
The capacity study?
Well, no, this our number that we were talking about at Finance Committee today, actually, that we get our ADM based on the February report or
That's
the
on March 31st.
March, so we won't have that yet. I'm just saying because we are hypothesizing that our enrollment actually has gone up since our October number, so that changes our graph a little bit.
Correct.
So I just wanted to point that out.
Any other questions? Ms. Graham? Good, okay. Ms. Blaylock?
And thank you, Mr. Eberko, and thank you for the booklet. It's very helpful. This is a document that always, I'm sure, helps all the board members. A couple of questions for you. 2009 is when I really noticed that everything changed. In 2008, I remember there being facilities on the books, plans to build new schools, all of that. Looking at the bigger picture, are we starting, I saw the renovation of Cortland, are we starting to look back at Site 18 for the next elementary school and think, is any of that back on the table?
It's on the table, but it's not on the front of the table.
So we don't have any
For
plans for
example, I
any
can tell
major
you-
construction?
At this point, we do not.
Okay.
We do not feel at this time, based
Yeah.
on what we're receiving in the planning to plan study, that we'll be needing to engage in new school construction at this time. Of course, the Board of Supervisors may approve even more development, and, we'll have to see
Yeah.
how that factors. So we're always in a sort of a monitoring mode, a lot of flux, trying to stay on the front end of that. We do work with the county planning department as much as we can. And by the way, they're really cooperative. They do a great job. Their staff is, I never have a problem being able to call them. We have pretty frank conversations, and I appreciate their help.
Yeah, and that is good, because I do remember it being on the table. We had schools, we were ready to go, and we were ready to roll by 2008, and it just all came to a halt. And I can sort of feel some of the other things slowly coming back, and so I anticipate some of the bigger construction starting to get back on the table probably in the next 5 to 6 years, I would think. The Cortland renovation, does that include the career and tech?
What we're doing with Cortland, if you look at, I believe it's FY17, when you have a chance to look at the project list, you'll see that over about $1 million is dedicated towards
Right.
Cortland. That's to study exactly what we need to do and to design it. And yes, it's possible that the Career and Technical Education Center would receive some repurposing of space. For example, a number of Cortland's career and technical education classes are now being actually taught next door at the Career and Technical Center. Ideally, it would be nice to bring those back to Cortland and free up the space over at the Career and Tech Center for other offerings.
Yeah, I would love to see the Career and Tech Center expand.
Right.
And there's a lot of programs over there I think could expand, even if we don't add, if we could add facility space so we didn't turn away students, would be a hope for me as well. And then my last question for you is again talking about the time where everything sort of changed in 2009 and we've been struggling and budgets haven't been what they were prior to that year. I've really noticed CIP have to put a lot of things on the back burner, and a lot. And we've got to stop that at some point and try to get some things done in a more timely fashion. Do you see that happening, that some of those things that were put on the back burner in 2009, 10, and 11, are we catching up? Do we feel anywhere near caught up right now?
There are some things that we're still behind in, and I'll give you an example. Around that time, I was not here then, we had a preventative maintenance department within maintenance.
Right.
And that was based on budget considerations that had to be disbanded. A number of folks retired out of that particular division, and the rest of the workers in that division were dispersed to other areas within maintenance. We really could use that in the future, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but that is an area that I would like to see at some point examined and maybe brought back up to speed, so to speak, because if you're preventing problems,
That's right.
it's more than paying for itself. And so,
Well,
again,
yeah.
we try to be as forward-thinking as we can in those areas.
I'm glad you said that, because that is an area we need to put back in place, just like we talk about the intern program needs to be restored for administrators here. That's something that needs to be restored, is the preventative maintenance. That's something we were able to do when I first was elected to the board, and it was nobody's fault. It certainly wasn't of anybody's fault. It was definitely the downward spiral that the economy took, and that we all felt. But I would like to see us start doing some of these bigger projects so we don't end up with
I will
more money
say,
down the road.
With Cortland in particular, that's the oldest high school that we have.
Yeah.
So the systems, one way or the other, are going to need to be renovated. Whether or not the scale and the scope of that renovation is still, in discussion. But one of the reasons that particular facility was chosen for renovation was because we have got to replace and upgrade almost all the major systems there at this
Yep.
point.
Yeah, Cortland was built in 1980. Is that correct? Was it 80?
I think so. I think it's 35 years old, 36
Late
now.
70s. That's really all I had. You're doing a fabulous job, and I don't envy any of you for having to prioritize something as large as this is. I think it's when you really think about how big Spotsylvania County school system is and how many facilities and buildings that you all are overseeing, the quality of the maintenance is second to none. Talk about some unsung heroes is definitely our maintenance department, but they're beautiful buildings, and you're doing a great job. I just wish we could get back to that preventative side now that we feel things rebuilding. So I'm glad you said that, and I hope we work towards putting that committee back together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hockaday deserves a lot of the credit.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
his folks, they take a lot of pride in what they do.
They do take a lot of pride, and we're appreciative of that. All of our 24,000 students get to benefit from a very nice facility every single day. When I go visit other divisions, I almost always call Dr. Baker or somebody after and thank them for how our schools look. I'm very pleased with that, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Ms. Shelley, before I ask you, I know Dr. Baker wanted to chime in, and then Ms. Shelley, and then Dr. Meyer.
I thought that many of the questions and comments that Ms. Blaylock had made, I wanted to address a couple of things, just really piggyback off of some of what Mr. Epico had shared in case that there are other questions. One of there are challenges of having growth, and then there's challenges of not having growth. And then there are benefits from both. One of the benefits is of not having a lot of growth to try to manage right now on an annual basis is the opportunity to pause and breathe enough that we can look closely at making sure that every decision that we make, especially as it pertains to larger scale construction, are done with kind of a global perspective. So when we are looking at potential renovations such as Cortland that are closest to coming, we, as you know from the Mosley study, we wanted to first get as firm as we could on what our 10-year to 20-year projections looked like in terms of student enrollment. And as now we are able to see, based on their projections, that it does not appear today as though we are going to grow beyond a little over 1,000 students over the next 10 years. That has implications for how we begin to proceed. And you know that phase 2 that has been proposed by Mosley is to go into really more of a community engagement and an activity where we would look closely at a number of different issues that would affect our schools and our students and our community over the next several years. From how we, and I say that the big theme with this bond that we received a little over a year ago was to maximize our current investments. And so all the decisions that we're making, we feel like we can't just go fully into we're going to renovate this facility without thinking about from an instructional programming perspective. And that vision that Mr. Twigg mentioned, that statement earlier, to expand student learning opportunities, to maximize our space, those go hand in hand. And so when we are looking at Cortland and career and technical education and any of our schools that currently have the benefit of additional space where others are more crowded, we are looking closely at what would the vision be over time in terms of maximizing our facilities to provide expanded, innovative learning opportunities for our students. And obviously, Career and Technical Center is a big part of that. The facility at Cortland needs a renovation regardless, but we don't want to get too far into that and then realize we may want to do something somewhere else too. And so that conversation over the next 6 months that will happen, not only with the board and with staff, but also with the community and other partners in the school division, will continue to inform the decisions that we make over time. Sorry for all of that, but just to...
Dr. Baker, thank you. Ms. Shelley.
Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. What Ms. Gramp said about the student enrollment, that was going to actually be one of my questions. I was just wondering if we have an idea. I know we won't have our ADM until March, but our numbers, I'm guessing, they've probably increased since October. With that, I don't want people to think that maybe because our numbers have gone down, we need fewer teachers or we don't need as much room, because our student enrollment numbers don't necessarily talk about the students, because we might have students who have more language needs or more special education needs. So there might be more specific areas that those students need to be worked with. Therefore, they might not be in just a classroom of 25 kids. They might be in a different setting. With that said, that also goes with our capacity. Because if it says, if a school was maybe built and they say it maybe 600 students, that was the capacity at the time of being built, that each class would hold however many students. But because of programs and the types of programs, that number might not be appropriate. And I'm kind of saying this for the audience and anybody watching, that a special education program, when the buildings were built, there might not have been a self-contained autism classroom that might only have 6 or 8 kids, but so that class had 25 students. Well, now that classroom only has 25 students. So therefore, the capacity of that school might not be as great as the numbers look like it is. So I just want the public to understand that if it looks like we have 4,000 or 2,000 or however many empty seats in our buildings, that's not necessarily accurate because of the way because of the types of students and the types of programs that we have in our classrooms in our schools, including pre-K, Head Start. We didn't have as many early intervention programs as we do have now. So I did want to just mention that for the public as well, when they see these numbers, that they understand what all is going on. Ms. Blaylock, thank you for bringing up that we have had to put on hold many of our maintenance needs because of budget restraints. So I would like to see, make sure that we're trying to get those put back. And then also, I noticed a lot of our safety enhancements are put into this cycle. And that's wonderful, because safety is our first, educating, but our kids have to be safe if they're going to be educated. So thank you for that.
Ms. Shelley, thank you. Dr. Meyer.
From what Ms. Gramp had said, Dr. Upperco, if the CIP with the enrollment figures, they're really based on September 30th enrollment, correct?
Correct.
So what Ms. Gramp is saying is another number that we really need to have brought to our forefront when the way the budget is built, because it's two different numbers. This is September 30th, that's March 31st.
Correct. There are
And
two different types of numbers, too.
that's
For
what,
example,
it's a number
March
of a different
31
color, it has a different
ADM.
meaning to it, because of that financial number could be federal dollars, it could be state dollars, or it could be, state money or grant money, those kinds of things. So that, especially that basic aid dollar figure, or student enrollment number is different than the one that's in this report.
Correct.
They're related, but they're sisters or cousins, but they're not the same. So we need to keep that in mind, that we don't say this is our financial number, because it's not. So it brings up a kind of a question. When we get into the budget, if we could get an update on what has happened with our finance number for the March 31st figure, what you anticipate, and you may use some anticipation off of this number only to get a relationship, but what's the real one, and what's our target, and how have we hit our target, over these last several years? Because that makes a difference. If you underestimate that the state money, we're in hard times. And we try not to. You overestimate expenditures, underestimate revenue. And we want to make sure that we're on target, which I know Ms. Gaines is, but it's good as a board that we recognize the difference between those two numbers.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Mr. Blaine.
Just really have a couple of observations. The last numbers I've seen for the workplace and its requirements is that maybe used to be about 20%, now about 22% of jobs that are available require a college education. The number of jobs that require very little has diminished I'm sorry, with no education as the laboring class, it's diminished terrifically. But the big growth has been in the area that our Career and Tech Center deals with. So I'm glad that you spoke about that and how important it is, because we need to be sure that we have space to add and provide the technical education, the certification kinds of things and others that we need in our society today. So that's an area of my concern, and in many ways we've already answered that, I know, but I want to emphasize that that's a very important area.
Mr. Blaine, thank you. Mr. Twigg.
Thank you. Mr. Upperco, relating to slide number 14, your related debt service costs, increase, decrease, is that school board projections, recent or long-term? Has this number been filtered through the board? How does this number become a reality?
Are you talking about the debt service?
Well, you have
Or
yeah,
you said slide 14?
debt service slide, the chart, slide number 14.
Right.
Okay.
I know that Mrs. Gaines has worked with Mrs. Stombach and with the county staff, and I'll let you address that to get
Okay,
those numbers.
thank you.
Whenever we borrow funds through the CIP, you're required to repay that debt via principal and interest.
Understand.
So what you see tonight is basically a presentation of what the loan amount would look
Understand.
like. If that amount is approved, and then based on a principal and interest rates, it will determine what the debt cost will look like. So what you're looking at page 14 right now is just projections. Once you determine the total population of what you want to borrow, we will then go in and make the modifications to those numbers. Thus far, we have been working very diligently with the county as well.
Thank you. Additionally, the 25 million from column number, the middle column, that came from somewhere. Did that come from the 2016 to 2020 projections?
It's a combination. When you look at all the debt that we have incurred over the last, let's just say 20 years, you have debt that's new debt, and you have debt that's retiring.
And how much is the old, please?
The old debt, did you bring, let me look at my spreadsheet.
Just give me an estimate. Is it 6 million or 18?
I'm going to say it's about 16 million.
About
when you look
16
at
is
it.
existing. So all, back to Mr. Upperco, and thank you. The 18 to 25 then, so 2017, you're looking at spending about $7 million. Is that a fair, am I looking at this correctly? Anybody can comment?
You're talking combined debt service, what we're looking to spend? Is that what?
Yes, present tense or future tense, but we're trying to document that number now and identify the number, sorry. That's how I see it anyway. If we have 18 million, well, there you go. Understand. Okay, thank you. And then but the general point I'm getting at is we're looking at spending about 7 million in 2017.
I'm not sure
Okay.
that that's what we're.
Yeah, she said 9.7, so 10 million.
When you look at, let's go back to the summary or the beginning page. If you look at page 4 of the PowerPoint, we're
Okay.
going to walk you through this.
There you
And
go.
we'll
Okay,
get
that
into more
answers the question. I
discussions when
missed
we
that
had the
piece.
work session January 25th and also on February 1st.
Okay.
But when you look at FY17, based on the plan that's before you, again, it's just a proposal.
Understand?
We're looking to expend $27.6 million.
Yeah.
Okay? And
Combined.
then when you go through the CIP booklet, we basically itemize that for you. And to go back to your previous question, when you look at FY 2017, the new debt amount is $3.3 million. And what I have with me is a detailed spreadsheet that we'll provide to you on the 25th.
Okay.
So you'll understand the details of it. We'll be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have then, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Twigg. Mr. Uppercall, I want to thank you for an excellent presentation. We look with bated breath for more details in the future.
It's never a
Thank you.
dull moment. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, we'll move on to the consent agenda items, 7.01 to 7.02. Dr. Martin.
On the consent agenda this evening are the minutes of the December 8th joint work session with the Board of Supervisors to receive the joint audit report, the December 14th workshop, the December 14th regular meeting, and the December 18th, 2015 special meeting, and donations which are usual and customary. Staff asked that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
When we have a motion from the floor to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion to approve the consent agenda.
Ms. Shelley made a motion
I'll
to
second.
approve the consent agenda, seconded by Ms. Blaylock. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Vote, consent agenda approved, 7-0. 8.01, the budget amendment number 8, approval to add an information technology aide, ITA position, Ms. Gaines.
Thank you, Chairman Braswell, and congratulations. School board members, Dr. Baker and Dr. Martin. The request before you this evening is to request the ability to add an additional instructional technology aid position, ITA. Currently, the school division does have 17 positions, and when you look at these positions, they're spread across the division. If this position is approved tonight, it will cover Berkeley Elementary and John J. Wright Educational and Cultural Center. The estimated cost for the remainder of the year is $21,800. On an annualized basis, $34,329. I did put before you at your table a green sheet which basically shows you what the description is for an ITA. They're responsible for providing customer service to teachers, students, and staff. They are the first responder for any concerns when it comes to technology. They also provide training and they install the technology. If this request is approved tonight, we will move forward in the recruiting phase of the process. And I do have Mr. Sakari here with me. He'll be happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Gaines, also, I'm noting for the board that there seems to be one word that's off on the background information on your sheet, and I'm just catching it. It says information technology aid, but it is instructional.
If you refresh your screen, you will see instructional technology aid.
Well, that is wonderful. Have you all already?
All right, thank you. You know I'm on it, Dr. Baker.
Is everyone else already refreshed? Okay, then I will now refresh. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. So at this time, staff is recommending that you approve one additional ITA position for this year's budget, which will be greatly appreciated.
I move that we approve budget
thank you.
amendment number 8.
I'd like to second budget amendment number 8.
We have a motion on the floor by Ms. Gramp to approve the additional instructional technology aid position, and a second by Ms. Shelley. Was it Ms. Shelley? We have a motion and seconded, a motion on the floor that has been properly seconded. Discussion. Ms. Blaylock.
Thank you, Mr. Braswell. I can see under here it says you would want this person to have computer training. What is required of this person? I mean, I'm assuming we need some sort of background if you're going to be the technology, instructional technology assistant.
With the instructional technology aid, we really look for those that have sort of a basic understanding, a basic level. You're not going to get a computer technician at that level.
Not at that
of where we're
price.
starting. So we really look for a basic level, an A+ certification, which is your basic troubleshooting and fixing. So it's really an entry-level
So they do have to
position.
have the A+ certification?
That's one thing that we really try to look for, and sometimes we have more success at finding applicants who already have that certification when they get here. Sometimes they've actually earned it once they're here working for us.
Okay, but it's not required that you have a certification to get this job?
Not required, no.
Okay. But you find that they can still,
For the most part, there's a lot of on-the-job training with our field techs who support anywhere from 5 to 7 schools themselves. So it's like we said, it's that entry level where they do their on-the-job training for the skills that they need, and they acquire them over time. We do training for them.
yeah, and that's just because I was thinking if you call in because you need technical support, you probably have the basic skill yourself, so you need a next level. So I'd just be, concerned that we make sure we find somebody with that next level.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other discussion, comments?
Yes.
Mr. Blaine?
This person's going to cover 2 schools, is that correct? Berkeley and JJ, right?
Yes.
And in other schools and most of the places, a person is assigned 1 or 2 schools in almost all situations.
In most of the situations that we have them where we have a few that actually have 3 schools, which is where we're looking to break that up for one of our particular ITAs. We are finding with the amount of equipment and the demands of a high school, they almost need somebody there full-time all the time. Really, every school could. But so what we try to do is, that what this position will do will give us the ability to leave somebody more at the high school, which will provide better coverage for Berkeley Elementary, and in turn also provide better coverage for John J. Wright and the other 2 schools that the current ITA is covering. It shifts it around, so she doesn't have to cover 3, she'll have 2, which will improve their service. It will also improve the high school that's being affected, and then the 2 schools that we're going to put this person in.
I certainly am in favor of this, but in many ways that person is kind of like a paramedic who a problem comes up and they're really needed right away, and half the time they're in the other school. So we have a delay and education slows up or something in that classroom. I would like to see us, frankly, as over time and as quickly as possible, begin to expand the group of people that we're hiring so that we can provide much better backup to our classrooms from my viewpoint.
Yep, definitely agree.
Any other questions? Any other questions or comments? Mr. Zakari, I want to, and Ms. Gaines, I want to thank you for your presentation on this as well. I was going to ask that question that Mr. Blaine brought up about the employment of this person and how we gain value from this person being, or this position being used in the way that you have intended for. So thank you for answering that question for me. And it's refreshing to know that we are thinking not only operationally but strategic on how we use our dollars and how we use our resources to enhance the education of our children. Thank you. Since there's no other questions or concerns, thank you, Ms. Gaines, thank you, Mr. Zakari. Do we have a motion on the floor? It's been properly seconded. We're going to call for the vote, starting with Ms. Gramp.
It's not a roll call vote.
Roll call vote, yes.
Gramp, aye.
Blaine, aye.
Wig, aye.
Braswell, aye.
Boylock, aye.
Meyer, aye.
Shelley, aye.
Thank you. 8.01 passes 7-0. Moving on to 9.01, 9.02. Ms. Leonard, informational items, I take it still customary, usual and customary. Thank you. Moving on to 10.01. Any unfinished business? Anyone? Unfinished business. 10.02. Any new business? Any new business? Go ahead, Mr. Twig. Go ahead.
Regarding Mr. Taylor's presentation, we have to appreciate the time and effort and energy put in by this Finance Committee, but at some point we have to start asking the question based on tonight's presentation, what is more efficient? Dollars, not sure. Well, we can determine that pretty quickly once we discuss another option with the county. Training differences, that's very subjective. We can adapt most handily. And I think given Mr. Taylor's statements, I think we need to take extra time to evaluate this, what I would term, new opportunity to save dollars and provide much efficiency that this county has not yet seen. And I think we need to not go back to the drawing board, just provide some further evaluation. And Dr. Baker and you and I have spoken about that briefly. And I think there is a window of opportunity to make that happen, which would please me. But we do stand to save some money, bring unity with the county and for the citizens, provide much productivity, quality, cost savings. And I think that is an option that is open to us. And I think let's see, and I do encourage us to see what the best benefit and option is for this county, and again, not just for the dollars, for a number of things that I had just mentioned a moment ago, with the ultimate goal to provide the best system for this county, for the people, for their taxes, and of course for their students ultimately as it pertains to us. And lastly, I do think that we're on a threshold here where we could be facing what I would term a litmus test with and for and by the county board. And I think we stand a dynamic opportunity to set a pace by which we can forthrightly and assertively move forward with the county toward an end that I personally, with the information I have, I deem it reachable. However, I think we should be evaluating this further, take our time, don't sign a contract tomorrow. Let's get with the county, as I know that's scheduled and planned in the AM, and see what our next step and hope is for the best benefit for the entire county. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to let Ms. Blaylock go ahead. She signaled to go first, and Ms. Gramp, did you want to go next? And Ms. Gramp next. Go ahead, Ms. Blaylock.
While we're in open discussion, I have so much to say. I don't even know where to begin. I find it odd that we are suddenly sitting here talking like this school board has not tried to work in unity for years.
Not implied at all.
Yeah, I got the floor right now. And I also find it odd that this school board voted on something last month. We didn't just vote one night. We all did our homework extensively. I could have, we had plenty of time to look into this. And I'm going to say what I said earlier. The county also voted on a system a year or so ago. I'm not sure when. And no one came to us and asked us, did we want to share in that? We had a 20-year system at the time, and we knew that we were going to have to do something at that time as well. So now that we did our due diligence as a school division and as a school board and move forward making a very prudent decision with a company, suddenly everybody's trying to stop us. Now, I have no problem with the meeting in the morning, whoever's going to meet with that. Any information I'm open to. I concur with Ms. Gramp that to throw out a number for savings, we're not sure what that savings is going to be. There is nobody who could say that there even will be savings. And Ms. Gramp doesn't think there will be at all. But the one thing that's going to get squelched right this minute, if it's the last thing I do, is that this board wants to do nothing more than to work good with this county. That relationship has been worked on. It's not that we're here today and we have a chance to have a good relationship. We've had a good relationship with them. But we are a governing board of the school division of Spotsylvania County. We are twice the size of the county, so we do have to move and take actions that are prudent to the county. I can say that Ms. Gaines, as our CFO, makes sure that we are on target with everything we do, and the RFP that went out, the companies that came back were scrutinized to the nth degree. These board members were briefed to the nth degree. We knew everything that was going on, and when we made a vote knowing what we were voting on and what this school division needed. I agree with Ms. Gramp that this company meets our needs. I'm not sure who these other companies are, if anybody knows somebody, because I don't understand why all of a sudden this company is such a bad thing. I can honestly say I've never heard of any of them until they were put in front of me. But I'm wondering, has anybody else heard of them? Because why suddenly is everybody panicking on a decision that we made? We made a decision. We're a school division. My colleagues are extremely able to read our documents and make good decisions. It was a 7-0 vote, if I remember. So if there is something that we need to do and talk about, let's do it. But to come up here as if the school board rushed into something, I want that cleared up. The school board hasn't rushed into anything. The school board did its due diligence, took its time. Not only that, we have decided not to roll out this plan until 2017. Not even any time in the near future to give us time to work on it. So we have time to talk to the county, and we will talk to the county like we have been talking to the county since I was elected to this board years ago. We've always worked with the county. Like I said, there was a committee to talk about procurement. We looked at everything down to the smallest items of anything we could share, even paper. We've looked at that. We will continue to look at that. So as to insinuate that this board is not continuing constantly to try to save taxpayers' money, hasn't been listening to this board for the past 9 years. That's what we do every day, is try to save taxpayers' money, and we try to do it making sure these kids have the best education they can have, making sure they have the programs, making sure those kids have the instruments that were sitting up here a while ago, making sure those kids get to be on the athletic fields, get to be in the governor's school, all of these things. And then we sit there, we look at our special education department. We offer everything you could ever want to a child. So to anyone insinuate that we don't want unity, no, we're going to do our job, and we want to do it with anybody who's willing to go along with us. But to come at us after we've made a decision and say, whoa, you need to stop and think about us, okay, but come to us when you make decisions too. There are many years a county employee got a raise, ours didn't. There were sometimes, actually I don't know if there was ever a time we did and they didn't. So if we want to work together as a team, let's do that, but it's going to take both sides. But I just want to defend the decision this board made last month. I still stand by that decision. I'll stand by it tonight. I'll stand by it tomorrow.
Ms. Gramp.
I also just wanted to update Mr. Twigg on the process. It was a 6-month process. There's an RFP process in place that we have to go by, right? So I'm sure that Ms. Gaines can provide you with the comparison, but the I forgot the second part of SunGuard system wasn't even in the top 3 of our final thing. And that takes an evaluation, all 7 of the criteria that we had met. And it wasn't even in the top 3 of our RFPs, so we can't.
I'm just going to interject. I think it's not an appropriate thing for us to discuss those companies and ratings at this time. But I do appreciate that from several different perspectives, that the concern is that, and I think what I heard earlier is, how can our current systems, whatever they may be, work together in order for us to find greater efficiencies and effectiveness and perhaps savings in the future, and that is what I think we are committed to from the school division and the county perspective. And any other additional information that the board needs, I will be glad to provide as we move forward.
Thank you. Did you want to finish your comments?
I also just wanted to say that process started where we actually sat down with the county, and the finance teams met before the RFP was sent out. So we did work together with the county before the RFP was even sent out. So I don't know what more we could have done, and I don't know why, after we have voted on it, now this is coming up. That's what's frustrating. If it had come up before the vote, we would be very happy, but now we have voted already and ready to move on.
A request for proposal was put out, I believe, in June. Following that, in late August, there was a meeting convened and requested by the county, and we did talk about their desire to see how we might benefit collectively as we moved forward with our RFP process. But we did have an RFP in motion as we began those conversations, and those conversations do continue. Thank you.
Any other comments, Mr. Twigg?
One last comment. Ms. Blaylock, I do appreciate your good defense. That's good. I concur. And you both raised some good points, and wasn't trying to imply negativity toward what was done. The way I'm viewing it is simply that we may have a new opportunity given the presentation tonight, and I'm simply and primarily saying let's consider giving it a chance as a board. Thank you.
Did you have a comment, Dr. Meyer? Go ahead, please.
I do find it disturbing that we're discussing this after the fact. That is disturbing. It gives a hint as if we haven't done due diligence, which is quite to the contrary. The other piece to that is when we're looking at a financial system, it's a financial system that meets school needs. It's a very complex financial system. I remember, this goes back 25 years, when we were with the county, and it was a mess. And it's because the systems could not keep track of the detail to the level that we needed to keep track of. And we were given the opportunity to implement the system that we've now had for 20 years, whereby we could track everything, every detail. And with the multitude of different payroll accounts and all the fixed charges that go with that, and we established a chart of accounts, I know because I wrote it. It was a chart of accounts to meet the state auditor's public reporting that had to coincide with the superintendent's annual school report back to the State Department. It had to coincide with all the other divisions. And one of the criteria that I looked at, one of the questions that I asked was specifically that the system that we're looking at will meet the criteria that we need for a division of this size as we go forward. And, as Ms. Gramp said, we met individually so we could be briefed. I asked my questions. I got my questions answered. And we made an informed decision by this board with instructions for the superintendent to go ahead and sign the contract, because we believe that that system is the best for this school division. Whether it's the best for the county, I can't answer that question. That's not for us to answer. We answer the question of what's best for this school division. I sat in Mrs. Gaines' seat. I know what she's looking at. I know what I looked at. That was 25 years ago, folks. So it has changed, and we needed to make a change. It's the DOS world compared to Windows world, folks. So, it's a tremendous change, and we needed to make that change. We knew that. It's been in the CIP for how many years? It's nothing new. This is nothing new. And the process that we've gone through, like Ms. Graham said, it's not new. So that we're questioning it now, after the fact, does bother me, because it creates an impression that we didn't do due diligence, when I think we did. I'm very comfortable with what has been recommended and what staff presented to us, through the superintendent, because I think it will definitely meet the needs of this school division. Now, whether it will meet the needs of the county, I can't answer that question, because I'm not a county staff or a county finance person. But I do know that it will meet with the chart of accounts and the detail, the level of detail that we need to have, it will meet our needs from here going forward, 20, 25, 30 years. And it needs to, and there needs to be that relationship between HR and finance and accounts payable and payroll, all those accounts, all the different programs, projects, objects, you name it, function, sub-function, all those need to be there. And we need to have it so that we can answer. When we ask questions of staff, they can give us those reports. So, I, as one board member, when I made the decision last December, I made an informed decision. And I'm not going to beg for a solution or any kind of recourse to that. I'm standing by my decision. We made the best decision for the benefit of this school division. And we know we've got a lot of work. We just finished we haven't even finished the student information system. We're into the implementation of a student information system. That's going to be an evolving, constant, improving system. The same's going to be with finance. The same's going to be with HR. Because there are softwares that our IT departments have written that will be able to be consolidated, improvements made, and we need to do those things. So, again, I'm being redundant, but, I'm not going to second guess the decision that we made back in December. I'm standing by my decision. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Dr. Meyer, thank you, and I want to thank all of my board members for offering their opinions. I just want to follow up by saying that I heard it said once that there's nothing new under the sun. And so I appreciate what Dr. Meyer has just said. I know that for a fact that we all try to reach out and work with our colleagues, because that's what they are, they're our colleagues, and we try our best to not only see their point of view, but help them to see our points of view. And that's why I'm always continually encouraged when I see Mr. Trampy in the audience, because he's showing an interest in what we do. But I know for a fact, like was already mentioned, that we go through great diligence when we make decisions. Our criteria are clearly defined. They're not only clearly defined, but they're weighed. And when they're clearly defined and weighed criteria, then we make a decision that's based off of what's in the best interest of the students in our strategic plan, which is to make children college and career ready. So I as well am very satisfied with the due diligence that was done to come up with that decision. However, my biggest disappointment is that we had to have this conversation at this forum. We could have had these conversations behind the scenes. We could have had phone conversations with our superintendent. We could have had phone conversations in meetings with boards of supervisors on an off-site. But to have this kind of discussion at this particular juncture served no other purpose but to create, in my opinion, disunity. So that's just this humble board member's opinion. Before we go into closed session, I hope that we could learn from this and respect each other's positions enough to have a conversation with them in a dignified way. With that being said, I'm going to read we'll go to 11.01, the closed meeting items. And it's resolved that the board conduct a closed meeting for the following purposes: considerations of candidates for employment, assignment, promotion, demotion, and discipline of employees or resignation of employees who have a contractual commitment to the board as permitted by 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia. Consideration of student disciplinary appeals as permitted by Section 2.2-3711A2 of the Code of Virginia. We have a motion to go into closed session. Have a motion to go into closed session by Mr. Blaine. Do we have a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Second by Dr. Meyer. All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? We are now in closed session. I have a motion to move back to open session.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Move back to open session on a motion made by Dr. Meyer, seconded by Ms. Gramp. All in favor, signify, as it was. Certification of closed meeting.
No, let's take a vote, please.
Oh, take a minute. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Back in open session. The vote is 7-0. Certification of closed meeting. Whereas the Spotsylvania County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such a closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Spotsylvania County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under this chapter, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting. We have a motion.
Again, move, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Dr. Meyer and seconded by Mrs. Gramp. Roll call vote starting with Ms. Shelley.
Ms. Shelley, aye.
Meyer, aye.
Blaylock, aye.
Blaine, aye.
Gramp, aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Martin, recommendations from the meeting, please.
Motion is that the school board accepts the recommendation of the superintendent for personnel appointments, assignments, reclassification, resignations, and retirements as presented in closed meeting and permitted by Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the motion that Dr. Martin said.
Motion by Ms. Shelley, seconded by Mr. Blaine. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Hearing none, vote carries 7-0. Motion to adjourn, seconded by Ms. Shelley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Meeting is adjourned at 9:27.